Alright guys, HyDra again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Today is the day that we've all been waiting for. The World Championship Grand Final is upon us in just a few hours' time. Will the new Subliners do the impossible, it seems, and go back-to-back winning the World Championship for the first time ever as an organisation in Call of Duty history? Or will OpTic Gaming, now OpTic Texas, maintain their streak of whenever they made a Champs Grand Final, they have won it? Does this team have what it takes to match what the Dynasty did back in 2017? So many storylines of today. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always. Loads to dive into today. A few things around the world of the World Championship as well, just because if you guys saw earlier in the weekend, there was some frustration from many in the VIP area that their view actually wasn't as good as even in the general admission area because of the boom arms with the microphones and the cameras and all this type of stuff. Now, it seems like the production have listened to some of those complaints and they've actually put the broadcast on another screen here, so it's giving those in that section another way to watch. So thought that was cool to see that, you know, everyone's trying their best to make this the best Call of Duty event possible and potentially the best Call of Duty event ever. I think a lot of people even watching from home have said this has been like one of the craziest events ever to watch, and I can tell you, man, in person it is something else entirely. The challenger side concluded, by the way. Well, it's not concluded yet. The grand finalist is RCT's team versus the Omit Brooklyn team, and we'll see that slightly more here in just a second. But yeah, these are the 5 teams that are going to be going to the World Cup in addition to the 11 CDL teams, with the exception, right, of the Los Angeles Guerrillas, who rejected their invite for reasons unknown. But there have been rumours for some time that Guerrillas want to get out of this esports, and maybe, you know, that's part of the process, I guess. But Team Falcons are going to be there. They won the necessary qualifier in MENA, Middle East and North Africa, so they're going to be there, in addition to the other 4 teams that came top 4 at the World Championship just across the road from me right now. So that's FaZe Black, that's Lord Gaming, that's Clutch Rain X Team Wars, that's Bantz's team, so cool to see a European team then, of course. You know, more representation in Cammy, who is in the finals with Awakening, Prolute and Purge. So one of RCT's Yuli, Paulex and 2ReeAL, or Cammy, Wake, Prolute and Purge is going to win the World Championship Grand Final on the challenger side and pocket a fair amount of money to go along with it. And that's going to be quite fascinating really to look at next season, certainly in terms of RCT's or Cammy or even Wake, just players that were in the league this season. Obviously that applies to Purge as well. Purge could go back-to-back Champs Challengers wins, by the way, which would be rather impressive if he does so. Obviously Prolute as well is a player who's always kind of on those fringes, but has clearly performed well to get to this point in addition. But for the likes of RCT's Cammy, Wake, then again though, there are already rumours that Cammy and potentially Wake, or maybe Cammy and RCT's, might end up on Boston for the World Cup. So let's just say hypothetically Cammy and Awakening go to Boston to form their new team, maybe with Purge. I mean, the rumour was it's going to be Cammy, Awakening, Purge and Snoopy. What does that mean for poor Prolute left on his own? You know, what team do they invite then? Because, you know, do you invite the 6th place team at the Challengers Champs? But there was 2 of those. So how do you do it exactly? Difficult to say, but I thought it was very interesting. Clayster actually had a few comments as well and says, I see a couple of ARs there that could be improved upon, right? Because Clay's like, hey, how about, you know, you guys make a bit of a roster change and then I get to go to the World Cup in Saudi Arabia. So as Clay says, tell your teammates, sorry, but the duo is coming back. So he's kind of saying, look, get rid of Paulex or whatever as the other AR. Clay's coming in and we're going to the World Championship, or the World Cup, sorry, in Saudi Arabia. Clay as well was commenting on this. I thought was pretty interesting how many either rookies or great players that Clay has teamed with in his career. Of course, Gwyn ended up winning Rookie of the Year, somewhat controversially, but, you know, probably will go on to be a very solid player in the league. And he's played with some pretty good names, Clay, over the years. And that's why Clay's like, look, maybe I'd make a godlike GM. So Clay's definitely keeping the doors open to any sort of opportunities. Obviously, he's on the desk right now here for the World Championship. He's still looking at potentially playing. He's talking about becoming a GM or a coach or whatever. So, look, Clay's a great guy. I'm sure the future is bright for him. Quickly, though, on some of the reaction from the series yesterday. Toronto, they just about fall short. 2nd last year, 3rd this year. I'm sure that Scrappy wanted to be in the grand finals again. It is interesting, right, that they brought in Envoy to the team, and it's not like Envoy played bad yesterday at all. CleanX really had, you know, I'm sure he'll be thinking, damn, if I had a better tournament, like, it could have been a different story here. But nonetheless, they made a change last year for Hixie. Their team was meant to be, like, this was meant to be the best move of the offseason, right? Like, this was meant to be the move that took them from being, you know, very solid team to possibly in the grand finals like every single time, right? Because it was meant to be a straight up upgrade. Hasn't really worked out like that in some respects. Yes, their competition has got stronger, but, you know, it's not like the team now was particularly dominant in any particular moment, and I think that Ultra, as I said yesterday, if you're OpTic, I think you'd have preferred to play Ultra in the finals because I think they're vulnerable to a bit of a collapse. That's what happened, to be fair, Game 5 in some sense against the Subliners yesterday, and, you know, is third enough to stick it together? I think it depends. They may well turn up to the World Cup with this same roster of 4, but whether it's the same after that, depending on the results, there is another question. But, you know, Scrappy tries to make it clear here. Shout out to my teammate, love these guys. Till next time, he says. So kind of the implication initially is we're probably going to stick it out. But of course, what you've got to realise is that, yes, Scrappy is locked down to a contract, HyDra locked down to a contract, and therefore I was expecting this Rostermania period to be, well, you know, be interesting, but maybe nothing spectacular like we saw last year. But all of a sudden, FaZe are at serious risk of blowing it up. There's lots of discussion about whether that trio's time is coming to an end. So if all of a sudden FaZe are making moves, then everything is open for change in this league once again. So I wouldn't rule anything out as it presently stands, even if the Toronto boys potentially think that they're going to run it back for next year as it presently stands. Couple of things on FaZe. Because it's my job, I looked through all of the FaZe guys' Twitter just to see who tweeted what, and Drazah has said nothing on this yet. I don't think aBeZy has said nothing on this yet either, so just interesting to think about. Simp tweeted the following out, Cellium tweeted this out as well, you know, ends our run at Champs, sorry to the fans, he says, and, you know, for Cellium, this was his 36th event with FaZe, which ties, well, nearly was about to tie Zuma with 37 for most tournaments played under FaZe in COD history. But, you know, will it be his last? I know I saw this and I thought that'd be very interesting, wouldn't it? If Cellium was, you know, seemed destined to become FaZe's longest tenured player, but he may potentially end one before. I guess the thing is with Cell, we've talked about this whole Rostermania thing. I'm sure we're going to talk about it again on the FaZe side. If Cell was to go or get dropped, I mean, I guess is how it would look like. He's not going to, I imagine, leave of his own accord. Obviously, there's been discussion what else they might do for that roster if they were to try and make a move. Where exactly does Cellium go? Because it's not like there's clear-cut main AR spots in the league. And, you know, for example, is Scrappy going to look at Insight and say, I'm going to drop you for Cell? I'm not so sure that he is, because there's other factors in play there in terms of how it might work from like a teamwork perspective and all this other type of stuff. But lots of reaction as well, of course, to OpTic Texas making it all the way to the grand finals of the World Championship. Like, this is the story that we wanted to see, and the storyline is delivering it right now for the fans. Formal gave his perspective on just the crazy resilience that OpTic have shown, and we've seen this OpTic before back at Major 3. Like, you know, we've talked about it, and we've talked about my comments on them being the, you know, the best team since the Dynasty, and all of a sudden Major 4 was an absolute shambles, and I'm sure after the season is over we're going to hear more as to exactly why and what exactly changed to get them from there to where they are today. But obviously we saw at Major 3 the potential is there to be the best team in the game. They did it before, they can do it again, and well, so far this weekend they have, but they've got to come out firing today, because if there was one team that I think is the scariest to play in the entire league in a grand finals, especially a Champs grand finals, it's got to be the New York Subliners, right? As I say, Toronto are vulnerable to a collapse at times. FaZe are very much vulnerable to a collapse, certainly in grand finals. So the Subliners, they are the best prepared team in the game, maybe with the exception of OpTic right now, because we saw what Shotzzy had to say, that they'd done 3 hours of prep on Invasion, Search and Destroy, a map that, to be fair, will probably make it back into the map set for the grand finals today, because this is a best of 9. It ain't a best of 7. This is a straight up best of 9 fight to the death, first to 5. And look, Subliners have come through losers. You can argue there should be an advantage, whatever. I guess there's a veto advantage. It ain't much, but OpTic will have, I guess, the slight upper hand. And there's no momentum in play, it's just you turn up on one day and see if you can win. And look, the best team's going to walk away the champion today, and the best team's going to deserve the rings at the end of it. But the energy in that venue is going to be absolutely electric, I'm convinced of that. And obviously these are some of the reactions from the OpTic guys yesterday. This is another incredible storyline as well on the Simp versus Pred thing, because we talked about it on Surge last year. Even Accuracy said on yesterday's watch party that these guys are very much up there as his favourite teammates of all time. Now they went their separate ways. There was even a bit of discussion, friendly discussion, but nonetheless several months ago, where Pred and Simp were having a bit of back and forth as to who was the better player on their time on Surge. And, well, today is potentially time to put some of those storylines to bed, because Pred is on OpTic, Simp is on Subliners, and they've both played incredibly well this tournament. and have arguably been their team's, standout players are probably Shotzzy, to be fair, for OpTic, but, Prid's been there or thereabouts. But for Subliners, to be fair, Sib was the one who's actually been more consistently delivering even than the HyDra so far, which, we'll see what, of course, happens today. OpTic would like nothing more than to get this ring in front of the home crowd for the green wall, and, well, they are going to have a challenge on their hands, though, because the Subliners are a very scary team, certainly in the grand finals. Kismet, over his last 3 series, is negative 91 in KD. He's dropped a 0.6, a 0.7, and like a 0.75 in his last 3 series. But we know that last year in the World Championship Grand Final, Kismet broke the record for the highest ever KD in a Champs Grand Final with a 1.52. Skyz was second at 1.51. Skyz, by the way, never loses finals. He's won his last 7 finals in a row, something like that. So that would be quite the streak for OpTic to break. They're absolutely capable of doing so, but the one team that is an absolute force in a Champs Grand Finals is probably going to be the Subliners. I mean, HyDra has had a good tournament. Like, he started the tournament on absolute flames. Yesterday wasn't quite as strong. He's probably going to have a bounce back today. I'm expecting Kismet to play better. Sib's been lights out, and Skyz has been really clutch for this team so far this weekend. So it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. But OpTic, on the course of the weekends, have played the best COD. They beat Subliners, they knocked them down to the losers bracket. It was close, it was competitive. But on the other side of things, you've got Sender, the man that was with OpTic. He was with Chicago Huntsman, he was with OpTic Chicago. He was then out of there, was released from the organization, goes to Subliners, and since then the rest is history. And as he says last night, we are not losing tomorrow. And obviously there's many in the replies saying, like, respectfully, I hope that you do. So we've talked about the players on the New York Subliners. What about the players in OpTic Texas? Who's going to turn it up today? Because the player that I'm probably looking at most is Kenny, right? Because Dashy had a big Saturday. Prid and Shotzzy have been incredibly consistent and high energy so far this weekend, and they've already got the confidence. They've beaten Subliners once. I'm sure they know they can do it again. But Kenny's record at the World Championship is very impressive. He now joins a very exclusive list of players that have been to the World Championship finals 4 times. Kind of incredible, the likes of Clay, Crim and Karma, they won 3 rings, but they only made 3 World Championship Grand Finals. They just executed every single time. If Kenny was to lose today, I think he would become the first player to ever lose 3 World Championship Grand Finals. He lost one back in Black Ops 4 with 100 Thieves, and he lost one with Team Caliber way back in his first season back in 2018, but it's only Simp, aBeZy and Jacob that have even done that. And if Kenny gets to 2 World Championship rings, 10-time champion, most championships in the CDL era, serious conversations to be had on where Kenny is on even an all-time level. This is crazy from Prid as well. This is his kind of resume so far. It's only his 3rd season. If he could go away with a World Championship ring, and that's what Prid talked about, that this is the absolute utmost #1 goal of any Call of Duty player's career, and today they will wake up and think, okay, now it's time to execute right. So much to talk about today. I'm buzzing for this series this afternoon. There's also lots of talk, I even mentioned it on the Thursday, that from a production perspective today, there's going to be some pretty spectacular things happening. Even yesterday, they gave people the wristbands that would light up in the colours of whoever just won the map. So you'd see the green, like, waves going around the venue, or the red waves when the Thieves are winning and stuff like this. There's so much happening. And just stay tuned for what is going to be one of the best days probably ever in Call of Duty history. So this is the bracket that got us to this point, and there is one more match to determine who walks away with the rings. The Grand Finals and Challenges is just before that, and then it all kicks off at 2 PM Central, as it has done for the last couple of days. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Who's going to win? Let me know in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.